So as you know, I normally shack up in a one-person tent when I come camping, but today I'm going to be using a two-person tent, and we'll take a look at some of the reasons why you might want to use a two-person tent to come solo camping. Back in the Peak District with Andy Beavers, the views from up here are awesome. Nice little flat spot. It's a little bit away from the edge, so the views aren't going to be spectacular, but we'll have a little bit of protection from the wind and a nice comfortable flat pitch. Thought I'd give the Levity backpack another try today. Definitely prefer the Exos 48 though. So this is today's shelter. It's a Nordisk Telemark 2.2 lightweight. A two-person shelter weighing in at 10 grams over a kilo. It's pretty impressive. It's just a single poled tunnel tent. I think it only needs 6 stakes. So each corner has a little ring that the stake goes through to make sure you've got a nice taut pitch. It does have some additional guy lines if you want to tie it out to give it some extra support. Doesn't come as standard with Furry Caterpillar. Let's have a look inside. So what I do like about this tent is it's got 2 entrances. Plenty of room inside. So this side has the vestibule area. Little bungee straps here just to tie the door back. But the vestibule is adjustable depending on how much space you want inside the tent. So if you want extra space for cooking, you just slide that along, or you can pull it out if you want more space inside the tent. So with it having 2 doors and 2 vents, it should make airflow a little bit better than the 1-door version, and hopefully that means less condensation. So that's tents pitched up. Andy's gone with the Alpkit Soloist today. He's made himself a bit of a conservatory there, look. Right, before I get the rest of the gear in the tent, I'll show you some of these views. I just love these rock formations up here. Absolutely stunning. I don't think I'd want a bath in that. Just a little bit of red left from the sunset. It's a bit cloudy though, so we haven't seen much of it, to be honest. Right, I'll get all my gear put away and then we'll think about having some snap. Got a little bit of steak for the jet boil today. I've remembered my frying pan this time though, so I shouldn't be butchering it like I did last time. Gone for the lazy option to blow the mat up. Just leave that for a few minutes. So the first thing to note about having a two-person tent is for very little extra weight you get a huge amount of space. So I think this tent weighs 150 grams more than the single person version. I've got all of my gear in, loads of extra space, plenty of room to cook. So if you're going to be spending a lot of time in your tent, so on those darker nights or for winter camping, then a two-person tent can make things a little bit more comfortable for you. Right, I better get some dinner on the go. I've had my wrist slapped lately for using a lot of plastic disposable bottles. So I picked up another one of these Nalgene's, so I'll be using this from now on. A little bit of fillet steak, asparagus, and instant mashed potato. Really, I'm loving this jet boil. Get the mash on the go first. Says I want 350 ml of water. I suppose that's one handy thing about having one of these bottles. It's got measurements on the side. This is quite handy stuff for when you're camping. Let's get this steak on. And a lay table. Started raining again. I reckon that's done enough for me. Time to tuck in. Good tip, whoever suggested that, thank you. See what the steak's like. Use my spatula as a cutting board. This is almost as good as one of those dehydrated meals. So the single biggest benefit of having a two-man tent has got to be the amount of space you get. I've got all my gear down this side, got loads of space down here to spread out. Could definitely get another person in here if I needed to, although you would have to be pretty close. There's ample space for your boots and to cook. It's an all-round much more comfortable experience. Weather forecast got it wrong again. So one thing you do need to consider if you're having a two-person tent, you're going to need a much bigger area to pitch your tent. So my tent looks about 5 feet wide, whereas Andy's solo tent, it only looks about 3 feet across there. So having a smaller footprint gives you a lot more options when finding a pitch. But that being said, you can usually always find somewhere to pitch your two-person tent. But what I find really impressive is that the Nordisk weighs in at 1 kilo and 10 grams, yet the Alpkit Soloist weighs in at 1.2 kilos. So that's 190 grams heavier than the Nordisk, but it has much less space inside. The vestibule is really small, although the headroom is better on this tent. It is nice to know that you can get a lot more space for around the same or even less weight sometimes. Managed to get Andy hooked on the alcohol stoves. Done a bit of DIY as well, haven't you, Andy, with the pot support?
All homemade, that lot.
Just washing up.
Yeah.
What's the little bag then, Andy?
This?
Yeah.
It's a Cuban Cuban snap. They call it a weekender. It's right size for, you know, fitting the dehydrated packs in.
Okay.
I think you can get about half a dozen in. It's from ultra light gear or something.
Is it tread light gear?
Tread light gear, that's it.
Okay.
It is all. I've got a few bits, you know, like my peg bag, same stuff. It's really good stuff.
So Andy filtered his water on the way up here from the top of Blackton Brook, he says. What do you reckon to that? It looks like brandy.
Peak District tea, that.
Tastes fine though, doesn't it?
Yeah, tastes absolutely fine. A little bit sweet, little bit earthy tasting aftertaste, but if you drink it with what you like, but perfectly fine for cooking up and drinking your coffees and teas with. I've drunk gallons on it over the years and I've never had one problem with it yet.
These Yorkshire lads will sup out. Alright, so that's it for tonight. I shall see you in the morning. So that was a pleasant surprise. There's not a drip of condensation on this tent this morning. There wasn't much wind, so I was expecting to be a little bit damp today. Just see some of the colour in the sky. Sunrise is about 15 minutes away, so hopefully it clears a little bit and we get to see some beautiful colours. That's where we're pitched, just behind that little gruff. There's Andy blending in with the countryside. He's got this camouflage down to a T now. There's loads of little spots if you like bivvy camping. It's what I call a brew with a view. It looks like a bomb's gone off in there. It doesn't matter how much space I've got inside, I still end up with gear everywhere. But it was like being in a palace last night, having all that extra room. Better start packing it away though. This was toasty warm as usual. Bit overkill for last night's temperatures. So there's a difference in space with a one-man tent. Andy's managed to get his bag in at the side of him, but quite a bit less room. But it needs a much smaller footprint than this one. So we could get this pitched up in a lot more little nooks and crannies. I'll just drop the tent down and we'll compare the pack size to Andy's one-person tent. See if there's much difference. How do you find the pitching the inner first?
I find it alright as long as it's not raining, as long as it's not chucking it down.
Yeah.
I find it's easy to put up and quick. It's quick and easy to put up.
So if it does rain, you just have to do it as quick as you can, or wait.
I've never done it myself, but there's folk on YouTube that have done videos where they've actually put the poles up on the ground sheet and put the outer on first and then got the inner on from inside. I've never actually had a go at it, but I know it can be done.
So here's the difference in the pack sizes. So as they come standard, this looks a little bit smaller, but I haven't put the poles in. The poles will just make it a little bit longer. Andy keeps his poles separate as well, so it makes packing easier. Yeah,
so if I've got poles and pegs in there wrapped inside tent, that's a pack size, but then if I keep them out, keep my poles and that separate.
That squashes down quite small, doesn't it?
You can squash that down really small and shove it inside your bag.
Whereas this one can't squash down as much because it's got the end poles in. I could take them out and put them with the main poles, but it's It's a lot of faff. And it still fits in my bag okay. But not much in it, is there really?
Not really.
That's everything packed up. Now but a bit of flat grass again. So, in summary, should you go rushing out and buying a 2-person tent over your solo tent? Well, if you're the sort of person that likes plenty of room inside, or you occasionally want to take the missus or the dog, then 2-person tent is perfect for you. I personally like the coziness of a solo tent, and I also like, because of its footprint size, I'm able to pitch it in some places that you can only really get a 1-person tent in. But that being said, most of the time you can always find somewhere to pitch a 2-person tent. You just have to search a little bit harder. But when it comes down to additional cost and weight, you're actually getting a lot of space for your money buying a 2-person tent. The prices are not usually that much more, and as we've seen, you can get a 2-person tent that actually weighs a lot less than a 1-person. And as for the Nordisk Telemark 2.2, I really like it. It's like a palace inside. I didn't have any issues with condensation, although when we got out of the tent, the slight drop in temperature and this bit of mist did add a bit of moisture to the outside of the tent. So I will be using the 2-man tent a little bit more over the coming months. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.